Hey gang, Chris Maholka here. Getting things ready to go out on the water for the first time this year, I realized that cleaning up the boat, that the boat numbers on my boat were getting really ugly and starting to peel and stuff, so I wanted to put some new ones on there, and I thought, well, while I'm getting my new ones ready, I'm going to show you how it's done. Now this is, something that you can do if you want to. You have to have numbers on your boat if it has a motor on it, at least in Oregon. There are certain sizes that they have to have, and that lists on the part that comes with your title. It tells you the sizes and where the positions are, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And so to do this, it's real simple. Once you know what your letters are, you need to make a basic stencil. I'll show you how to do that. You need some vinyl, and this is the reason you make your own. Vinyl letters usually only come in black or white and certain fonts. If you want to do something a little different, like my Duraboat is dark blue, and so black letters didn't look good, white letters look horrible. So I'm going to put yellow on that matches their logo on my boat. You need an X-Acto knife, good sharp X-Acto knife. You can get these sets at Harbor Freight. The whole set's like 16 bucks, but you only need to get the small set that has one with a blade that has a nice straight edge to it, good point for working detail. You can actually use this type of X-Acto knife, but it's a lot harder on the fingers and harder really to control, where the soft one's a little smoother. You need a piece of baseboard, backing board. Cardboard, corrugated cardboard doesn't work well because all the bumps in it creates problems. This is just like some picture mounting board, and some masking tape. You get those things together, and it's all you need to make whatever kind of boat numbers, name, design, whatever you want to on your boat. First thing we're going to do is show you how to make the stencil. To basically make our stencil, we just use Microsoft Word. I've opened the page to this, and it gives you the blank document. I'm going to choose my font up here in the top left corner. Click on that, on the drag down, and I like Times New Roman because it gives you nice looking letters that are really easy to cut. So we select that. We want this to be bold. Click on bold. And then for our font size, we want this to be about 3 inches tall, or 3 inches tall. So we're going to put in a 300 for our font size. Now when I click on enter, it shows you that you don't have a lot of room on that page. So we're going to change the layout of the page by clicking up the top on page layout, orientation, and change it to landscape. Now since we're going to be cutting and aligning these, it doesn't matter that all your letters and numbers don't fit on the same page. So we're going to make these caps. We're going to go OR. Now you can see nothing else is going to fit on that, but that's okay for that page. We'll hit enter to go to a new page. And our numbers, 399, enter, and our other two letters, which are ZP. Whoop, not that, we want caps, ZP. There we go. So now we've got the letters that we want to use, letters and numbers that are our boat registration. We hit Control P for print, and it gives us this, tells us what the printer is going to. And how many copies, and we're going to do 3 copies. You want 2 for one for each side of your boat, but then 3 copies gives you an extra in case you cut something wrong or need to replace something. So we're going to just take this now and we're going to click on print. Once you get your stencils cut, you'll need to have your vinyl, and this is Cricut material. My wife has a Cricut, but she uses it for a lot of things. I tend to do things still the old-fashioned way. If you don't have an automatic cutter, then this is definitely the way to go. But you use the Cricut vinyl or some brand similar to it. Couple things you have to look for on this. First off, you want permanent. There's some that's removable, so you can peel it back off. You don't want that. You want permanent. Gloss doesn't matter. Gloss, if you're doing a duck boat or something, you may not want glossy. And like I say, permanent. This is just a regular premium vinyl. There are some that are iron-on, and of course you don't want to do iron-on your boat. So you just get a permanent quality vinyl, and the goodies down here, we'll talk about that, weeding and those things as we go, but premium vinyl, permanent. On your boat license, or the thing you get with your title, your license every year, you'll get a piece of paper that has your stickers on it and everything, and this gives you the layout that they require you have. So they want the letters not over 3/4 of an inch apart. They want them 2 inches from in the groupings, and that's all the way down 2 inches there, and they want the letters to be a minimum of 3 inches high. Let me hold that a little steadier there and get it in focus for you. So not over 3/4 apart, 3 inches from your tag, 2 inches apart, letters 3 inches high. So by doing the stencil the way we did, it'll allow us to make these things happen. The natural spacing between the letters happens when you print them out. The 2-inch spacing we'll do when we cut the stencil apart and put it together, and I'm going to show you how to do that. I was talking about X-Acto knives. The blades like this are pretty much required. You want a really fine point, and it doesn't really matter if it has the little recess on it like this one does, as long as it's got that very nice straight point is what you need to cut this vinyl on your mat board. Now that the letters have come off the printer, we've got our OR 399 ZP. We're going to prepare our stencil, and what we want to do on this is go about a 1/2 inch above the letters, or below the letters and above the letters. Just make little marks so I get my measurements kind of correct. Then we're going to take that and we're going to trim these just at that mark, 1/2 inch below the letters, 1/2 inch above the letters. And doing things like this is why I made the extra copies, in case you mess up and cut your stencil up. So there's the OR. And we're just going to wing this a little bit here so we get through it. There's the zip. One side and the other. We're not going exact here. We're just giving ourselves some room to tape things down is all we're doing when we get to the next stage. And there's our letters, our 399. Get about a 1/2 inch. Bottom and top. Now, if you remember on the instructions I showed you that come with your title and your stickers, it tells you that you want to be about, tells you not to be about, tells you to be 2 inches. Let's go this way so you can read the ruler. 2 inches from one letter to the next. So we're going to spread that out until we're about right at 2 inches apart. Just for stability, I'm going to tape this one side down a little bit. Hold it in place. I don't want to tape them both down, I just want to tape one down. Because the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my straight edge on there, and I'm going to make sure that I have everything aligned correctly. You can see that we're a little bit off on this one. The O is sticking down a little bit, so we just need to take the knife and we're going to move that up a little so the O is perfect, and we're going to move this side down a little bit so the R comes into view. And this is all we're doing right now, is we're just straightening to make sure that all the letters are nice and straight. So there's our OR 399 ZP. Now, before I move the ruler off those, I'm going to use some Scotch tape, and I'm going to tape down. So now we know that stays in place. Now we go to the other end. Keep that tape there. And we need 2 inches between the 399 and the ZP. So we're just going to do basically the same thing. We're going to measure out, get our 2 inches to the edge of the Z. So that's about our right distance. We're going to use our ruler And it's nice if you have boat numbers that has nice flat bottom numbers, because it makes it a lot easier to line it up. There's the 399 and the ZP all lined up perfectly. Use a little Scotch tape. Tape those together, and a little bit more just to make sure I've got them really good and secured in place. So when you lay this out properly, the total length from here to here is about 24 inches. We'll make sure of that from the front of the O. It's about 22 right there. So we can take now and get rid of this extra paper that's on here. Just cut off that section. Run down to this end and trim this section off a little bit. Okay, so there now is our stencil laid out. So now what we need to do is prepare our Mylar to take the stencil. I didn't plan on bringing math into this, but when you've got your letters that are 3 inches tall, and I left 1/2 inch top and bottom, that's 4 inches top to bottom on the paper. Your Mylar comes in rolls that are 12 inches wide. So you can get three of these out of one piece of Mylar. So what we're going to do is just measure on the back. Luckily Mylar has really nice graphs. So I'm going to go turn my ruler around there. I'm going to go to the 4-inch mark, 8-inch mark, and I'm going to cut this lengthwise on this piece, because this piece is 24 inches long. And by the way, when you buy it, make sure that you get pieces on the packaging that are 12 by 48, or at least 12 inches across, at least 24 long, so you have enough to get your your letters all in one piece. So now that I've got my Mylar marked, I'm just going to start and cut right down that one little grid line. So I'm cutting this into 3 pieces of vinyl. There's one piece. Then we'll cut the other one same way, right down the line where we marked our mark. Don't even need a ruler for this. If you're all stiff-handed or straight-handed, you make that work. So now we've got a piece that's at least 24 inches long lengthwise, 3 inches tall, or 4 inches tall. Now our stencil will lay right on that piece of Mylar and have a little bit above and beyond top and bottom where you can tape this on. So I'm going to take my, just about out of Scotch tape, take my masking tape, and I'm going to start down at this end. I'm going to tape that down, smooth it all out, make sure that it smooths out nicely to the other end. I'm going to go along and tape down the paper to the Mylar. Again, it doesn't matter if even if you're going over some of the letters, because you're just going to use the X-Acto knife on them anyway. So we're taping that down. Get to this end. Now let's go back, go along the edge so we're sure we're flat. And the main thing you want to work for is keeping everything as flat as you can. The Mylar, sometimes when it comes off the roll, it'll have a little curl in it, but if you lay it out, it's all warm, it'll flatten out in just a few minutes and be nice and flat for this project. Okay, and we're going to tape the end up. So now we've got our completed boat numbers taped to our Mylar. They're all spaced correctly with 2 inches between them. And we've got good smooth layout. Now is when the X-Acto knife skills come in, and we're going to take this knife to them and we're going to cut these out. And what happens is you cut right along the edge of the paper, or edge of the letter where it's printed, and you press hard enough on this material with a sharp blade, it will cut the mylar as well as the paper and the backing all at the same time. Now for using the X-Acto knife on this, one thing you remember is you keep your other fingers out of the way. You can hold the paper down to keep it flat, but always cut toward a clear area. You don't want to have your fingers holding it over here and be cutting this way, because you'll have problems. I like to cut everything vertically, and then when I get like to the other sides of the O, like the top and bottom, simply rotate the page and then cut this way. It's also easier when you're pulling out away from you. When you try to come in toward you, it's like hitting a slice in golf. It gets more difficult trying to control the blade when you're going that direction. So to start out, I'll usually just go right along all the edges of a letter, and then do the inside as well. Then go to the other side of it. Remember to try to keep it flat as possible. If it starts to bunch up, just turn it some. I'll just continue that cut on around to where I made the cut on the other side there. And you can always lift the paper up to tell where you are, and I guess I've already made that cut. Doing pretty well without my glasses on too. So now we know where we are there. We can just continue to turn the letter, turn the whole thing until you can come around and meet up with that cut you made down the other side. Now you can see we're still connected there at the top. We haven't cut all the way through. Let's go up here, and again I'm pulling toward me, keep my fingers out of the way, working right on the edge of the letter, and when you get to that point, that piece then will pop right out. So then we know we've done the side, this side of the O. We'll work on the other side here. Keeping everything held down nice and flat, coming around, and just turn the paper as you go. I'm working on a messy table here because I have a bunch of things going on at once. Keep continuing around till you meet up with your cut on the other side. And we've still got a little bit on top that we haven't done. So we'll just go right along and follow the line. And I'm not applying a lot of pressure, I'm just letting the blade do the work. Okay, so that comes off. And there's our O. If you have any place when you look at that you've got little bumps or anything small, you can just take the knife and just kind of barely trim those away and produce the O. Now you can see how things are a lot easier on letters like the Z, because these are all pretty much straight cuts. And the reason I had you do 2 of these is because when we get this all cut out, we're going to tape this up to the side of the boat and use it for our stencil to actually apply the letters. So to save you some time, I'm going to finish cutting these out, and then we'll show you how we do the application. A couple things I forgot to tell you. As I cut these along, I like to put them in a bag, because there's nothing worse than getting out to put an application on and finding out you're missing a letter. Then also I'll keep these with this one, so if I have any little areas that are cut a little different, they'll be unique and easier to lay out with this. Also, once you get done with the cutting, the paper comes off. You don't want to stretch or tear the mylar. You want it to stay smooth and flat, because that's going to be our application stencil. And if you're so inclined to want to do something like an airbrush your numbers onto the boat, rather than using these pieces, rather than using this as a nice straight guide to put your letters on, you can put this onto the boat. If you saved your pieces like the center of your O, you can tape it in place And you can use this as like an airbrush or a spray painting stencil as well. So always keep your extra little pieces, even parts like the R, center of the R. That way if you change your mind on how you want to do an application, this would be a perfect spray painting stencil as well. So let's go put this on the boat. So before we put the stencil up, I should probably remind you to subscribe. Before we put the letters on, we're going to do a little surface prep. We're just going to take our sandpaper for our steel wool, and we're going to take off any wax that may be on there that keep our letters from binding. You don't want to get down into the paint, but you want to rough up the surface. If you remember, from the start of the sticker to the start of the letters is 2 inches. So we're going to measure over 2 inches, and we're going to make a mark at 2 1/4, because that's going to be inside our first letter. So we'll have alignment there on where we want that to go. Now on my letters, you have to decide how you want them to sit. My dot's right there. I'm going to put that 1/4 inch inside, and it can either be flat if your boat is relatively flat, or it can be curved. And since we have this sloping curve, we're going to follow that with our stencil. And what I've done is I've cut off a little bit of the backing. That'll help me position it and hold it in place until I can get it taped down really well. So there's the bottom. We're going to go and follow that curve of the boat up and just start and tack our stencil in place. The nice thing about this is if you don't get it exactly where you want it, you can reposition it. So I've prepared some masking tape pieces, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the front, tape down the front. I'm going to go along the top as well, making sure everything's tight and smooth. Remember, we've got that backing cut off along the top, so it should hold pretty well. Now we go along the bottom edge and work from right to left, same as I did on the top, keeping it smooth and flat. And in this case, we don't want to put any tape over the letters because we're going to apply the letters through the holes. Now, if you were spray painting this on, you could even remove all the backing and just stick the whole stencil down. Just stick the whole thing on, spray your letters, then peel the stencil off. So we're just about good there with having our alignment. Everything is good here, and we're ready to apply our letters. So now I've got my bag of letters I kept with this assortment. I'm just going to start and separate them out as the train goes by. You want to try not to stretch anything. Then you start at one edge. This is why we're using the stencil. You just lay it right in. And if you're not exact, that's okay, but you want it to be smooth. Use our exact knife and pull this back a little ways. Get that little wrinkle out of there. Press out our air bubbles. Smooth it out. Do the tough one, the Z, because it's so skinny, and just align it to the gap. Line all your edges up. And this is the reason I kept the stencil and the letters together, because you don't always cut everything exact, but this way, using the same ones where it came out. If you've got a little overlap, that's okay. We'll fix that and show you how to take care of that in just a minute. So I'm going to continue on, and then I'll come back and show you how we finish up. So everything is in place now. All the letters are in. I've pulled my masking tape off. Now you need to be careful when you peel the stencil that any place you've got overlapped, you don't want it to hang up on your stencil as you peel it. Make sure everything is pressed down nicely. Go carefully and slowly around your letters that have thin parts. Anything that looks like it might come up, make sure you press down better. And just keep peeling until everything comes off. Make sure everything is pressed down smoothly. Now if you want this to really last, put a coat of wax over the top of them to help protect them. And there's your really nice looking set of boat numbers, hand cut. Saves you a lot of money on a Cricut. And you can do any design, any name, any text you want that you can print out on a stencil. You can cut on any kind of vinyl you can find. So thanks for watching. Be sure and catch us next time, and please remember to subscribe.